Please note, this video is for entertainment purposes only. Should not be used for instructional purposes. Thanks for watching. Hey, welcome back to Ed's Garage. It's Edward here with my buddy Job. And today we're going to be working on this 2004?
2005.
2005.
Hyundai Accent.
Hyundai Accent GL, I think it is, right?
GL, correct.
Awesome. So this belongs to Josanne. This is Job's girlfriend that we're basically going to have a look at the brakes on this vehicle today. Basically, she's running into a problem where the brakes are a little bit spongy. So we're going to take off the wheels, take off the calipers, see what we're looking at. It might just need a bleed, might need some pads. We don't know yet. The car basically is new to Josanne. So we're going to be pulling it apart and checking it out. So stay tuned. Alright, so we've got the wheel off. We had a look at the pads. The pads actually look pretty good on this vehicle. We have yet to take off the driver's side wheel, but on the passenger side, we've got easily, it looks like 4/32 of brake pad left at least on both sides of the rotor. The rotor itself looks in fairly good condition as well. So my guess right now is that it needs a good solid brake bleeding. But basically what we're looking at on the brakes here, just come on a little closer, Job, so we can show the viewers sort of how these work. So we'll start off with this line coming in. So you can see this line that actually enters into the caliper. This is your hydraulic brake line. Basically, anytime you press the brakes, hydraulic fluid is being pumped in through this line into the caliper. On this side of the caliper, so on the inside, there's actually a piston. The hydraulic fluid pushes on that piston, which causes this brake pad on this side to press against that side of the rotor, and on this side, the other side of the caliper is pulling the brake pad that's on this side against the rotor. And the way it does that is you've actually got slide pins, one on the top of the caliper, one on the bottom of the caliper. And that allows this caliper to be able to slide back and forth inside the caliper bracket. This little knob right here is our bleed screw. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to bleed the brakes using these bleed screws. Now we need to do all four wheels for that. And we're going to start with the wheel farthest away from the master cylinder, which is located on the driver's side, firewall side of the engine. So one of the most important things to working on a vehicle, or working on anything for that matter, is to stay hydrated. So we're going to stay hydrated today. Let me open that for you, bud. Cheers.
We drink beer differently.
Okay, so we had a good look at the front brakes. Everything looks fine in the front brakes. Sliders are working. The brake pad thicknesses are the same. There's lots of brake pad left. Rotors looked good as well. So now we're on the back brakes. Now this is a 2005 Hyundai Accent, so it actually has brake drums in the back. So we're going to have a look at the brake drums here. So come on down and look at this with me here, Joe. So in a drum brake, basically what you have is the drum, this guy right here, and the inside lining of the drum is what the pads actually make contact with. So kind of like the disc in the front, the rotor, that shiny surface, this also has a shiny surface on the inside of the drum. But the pads in this case are located right here. And you notice the pad thickness is a little bit less than what you would normally see on a brake disc. That's normal. These take a lot longer to wear down. Brake drum pads last a lot longer than brake disc pads, especially rear brake drum pads, because the rear brakes really don't do much of the braking at all. It's actually when you're hitting the brakes, most of what your braking power is coming from is the front wheels. So having a look inside here, what we can see is two floating drum pads, and the reason they're floating is because you can actually, well, with a bit of effort, you can actually move these. I can't move it right now because these are quite old and they're a little bit dirty. But basically what we got is a dual piston right here. So there's a piston right here that pushes out and a piston right here that pushes out. So it's getting its brake fluid from this line over here. Can you see that in the camera? And the brake fluid's going into this and pushing out in two directions, causing these pads to basically move away from each other against the drum. And that's how it's slowing down. Now on the other side down here, there's actually a cable that does sort of the same idea on the other direction, or on the other side of the drum, and that's for your emergency brakes. When you pull your emergency brake, it pushes out the bottom half. And that's how these brakes are able to supply braking power when you hit the brake pedal, but also your emergency brake when you're parked. Alright, so after having a look at all the brake pads on the front and the rear of the vehicle, everything looks great. So the spongy brakes, looks like it literally strictly is just air in the lines. So we're going to go ahead and bleed the brakes. The first thing we're going to want to do though is we're going to want to make sure that the fluid is topped up in the brake fluid reservoir. So that's down here. And before I even take the cap off, I'm going to clean off any debris or dust that's lying around the cap, because the last thing I want to do is get debris into the brake fluid in here. So while we're here, basically what we're looking at is the brake fluid reservoir, and it sits on top of the master cylinder. Now with mushy brakes, often the master cylinder can be a failure point as well, so we're hoping that that is not the case. So I've got my nice clean funnel here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some brake fluid until it's at the max line, which is pretty close right now, but if we're bleeding brakes, we want to make sure we don't actually get the fluid level too low, because that'll just bring more air bubbles into the system and cause all sorts of annoying nastiness. Alright, so I've got a little bit more than max in there. That's fine. We're just going to keep an eye on it. Alright, so when bleeding the brakes, what you're going to want to do on most vehicles is start with the wheel that has the farthest distance between it and the master cylinder. As I mentioned before, master cylinder is going to be generally on the driver's side right up against the firewall. So what I've got here is I've got a tube running off of the bleed screw that I pointed out earlier into a little container, and that'll contain my fluid that's going to come out inevitably. And what we're going to do is we're going to watch this clear hose for bubbles coming out with brake fluid. So essentially what I need to do is I need to leave the bleed screw tightened up while my helper here actually pumps the brakes, and then while he's holding the brake pedal down, I'm going to open it, close it, and look for brake bubbles. So keep rolling. Go ahead, Job, and pump the brake 3 times and hold, please. Alright, so now I'm going to loosen the bleed screw. Very carefully. Alright, so now Job's just felt the brake pedal go down, and I can see some brake fluid coming out. I'm going to go ahead and close it again. Now that one is really, really tight, so I may have to put a little bit of penetrating fluid or some WD-40 just to free it up a little bit and get it a little easier to spin. Okay, pump it up again. And hold. So there's our fluid coming out, and no bubbles here. So this wheel is good. Now I've done it, we've done it 4 times now, Joe?
Yep.
Done it about 4 times, and even though I haven't seen any bubbles come out yet, I still wanted to do it a few times just to be on the safe side. But it looks good, so I'm going to go ahead right across to the opposite side.
After bleeding the rear right brake, we proceeded to bleed the rear left, and it too was fine, no air bubbles. Then we proceeded to go to the front passenger side.
Pump it up. Holding it?
Yeah.
Alright, we got a bubble there. Just one. So we're on the front passenger side wheel now. Go ahead, pump it up.
Okay.
I think we got another one there. Tough to say. Okay. Yeah, this one looks pretty good. We'll do it one more time. Yeah, this one's good too. So, just so you guys know, before we checked the second wheel, we did, of course, check the brake fluid reservoir, and it was still good. So we're not taking too much fluid out of the system. All right. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't rolling tape, but this last wheel, our first release of the pressure and a whole bunch of air came out, and then subsequently again on the second release. 3rd and 4th looked fine. So I think we got the majority of the air out of the system. It seemed to all be accumulated at the front left wheel. We're going to take it for a drive and test it out. So we're going to button it all up, and we'll see how she does. Okay, so we took the vehicle out for a drive, took it up a hill, and it's probably not the smartest thing to do once you work on the brakes, but we checked it out before that. In any case, brakes were able to lock up the tires quite nicely now. Sponginess was completely gone. Brakes worked fantastic. So that did the job. Guys, thank you so much for watching my videos, and if you like, please hit the like button, subscribe for more. I'll be trying to come out with a video like this on a fairly regular basis. I'll do my best to get out at least one a week. There's going to be videos other than car repairs. I'll be doing woodworking videos, other projects, all sorts of cool stuff. So basically, anytime I got a cool project on the go, I'll make a video and I'll post it up. So hope you liked what you saw, and maybe you learned something, maybe not. Maybe you can teach me something. If so, leave it in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.